So in my cancelling spree, I have cancelled a whole host of people. Chris Pratt, Salt Bae, Moist Critical, Mr. Beast. I've even cancelled cancel culture itself. But today I am shifting my attention to cheaper by the dozen star, what he's most famous for, Ashton Kutcher. Also known as a guy who doesn't believe in bathing, Ashton Kutcher is of course like a very famous person who I guess his popularity peaked in like the 2010s maybe, because he doesn't seem to act in anything significant right now. I think he's on like an American sitcom recently, and I think he has a couple projects in the works, but he hasn't done much acting over the last like 5-6 years. But he has done a lot of tweeting and a lot of weird tweeting over the last couple years. So today I thought it'd be fun to cancel another celebrity. If I had my chocolate orange pile with me, I guess we'd have to start like a rival chocolate orange pile for every celebrity I cancel. So after this video is done, Ashton Kutcher will be cancelled. All his new films are all going to be put on hold, and I don't think he's ever going to work in Hollywood again. Because that is how cancel culture works. You guys got to help me with that one. I got to stir up the left-wing mob, and by the time we're done, he will be deplatformed off Twitter and Instagram as well. But before we get any further, people say I need to remind them. I keep forgetting to even remind people. Please like the video if you like it while you're watching it. Maybe leave a comment to help the video out. If you want to support my work, consider becoming a patron. Like I always say, I want to build up as many $1 to $3 patrons as possible. And at the moment, you get access to my Nintendo Switch friend code and the private patrons Discord server. Also, check out the Kavernacle Extra, my second channel, where I archive my live streams, and also follow me on social media at the Kavernacle on Twitter and Instagram. Come join our community on my subreddits. All my socials and stuff will be linked in the description. So something that Ashton Kutcher has transitioned more into over the last decade is a businessman, and he's got involved in various different companies and various different startups. It's something that he seems to be like more passionate about these days. So I want to bring it back to an interview I found in 2010 with an Israeli, I think, news station, just to cancel him about his views on big business first.
At the end of the day, it's the next way to make money, and it's brands are going to use that social media. They use it now, and I mean, your company also helps them successfully doing so.
I think that looking at big business as evil empires is pseudo-naive. I think sometimes there's abuse that takes place with big businesses, but I also think that there's a lot of good. I think that like there's pure water campaigns that are taking place because of huge businesses. It was funny, I was at the Bill Clinton, there was this Clinton Global Initiative every year, and I was there, and there are these huge companies that are making like massive donations. I mean, look at what Bill Gates has done with the money that's been earned from Microsoft.
Yeah.
Billions of dollars going into fund public education systems right now. That, you know, so we can look at the big business as the big bad monster, or you can say, hey, I need help with this project. Let's connect and let's work together on it.
So that clip was to immediately make you not like this guy, because he's talking about people being pseudo-naive. I've never heard that term before. While also talking about big businesses are good because they give massive donations to the Clinton Foundation. Because as we all know, big business is only giving millions of dollars to the organization run by the Clintons because, I don't know, they're good or something. Not that they want political influence. Bill Clinton, even if it was just him running the organization, is insanely well connected. I think this was when Hillary Clinton was in the Obama administration, and then of course she also ran for president. The only person naive here is him, and he talks about like clean water initiatives and things like that. Well, how about like Coca-Cola, like poisoning people's water supplies, or just like loads of corporations poisoning water supplies? This happens like across the world. It's very, very common. Some companies doing clean water stuff doesn't mean that big business is somehow good. And he talks about Bill Gates, who of course is like the poster boy for the good billionaire. But there are no good billionaires. Bill Gates is just as bad as the rest of them. He just does some good work and has a great PR team. People people like Ashton Kutcher are happy Bill Gates is like buying up loads and loads of farmland across the United States. So very, very capitalistic. And while I think that will immediately make you not like him, I also think it's probably one of the more tame points. So now I want to go into the Israel stuff first, and we'll get into the CIA part last. This stuff is pretty wild for an actor. So I do have a clip of this, but the audio is very hard to hear. So what I think I'm going to do is I'm just going to read out an article about this, and when I'm editing the video, I will see if I can just play the video instead, or I can play the footage and maybe talk over it. I'll see what works best. So this is back in 2016. Ashton Kutcher defends Airbnb to BDS protester. So holding a sign that called for the home sharing company to refrain from listing properties in West Bank settlements, the Code Pink activist was led off stage by the actor and investor who told the crowd the company is about bringing people together. So talking about the protester forcing their way onto the stage at a festival of hosting conference on Saturday night in LA, promoting Airbnb investor and famous actor Ashton Kutcher, who defended the company. The protester, Ariel Gold, brandished a pink sign reading Airbnb out of settlements at Code Pink, the Twitter handle of a woman-led grassroots organization working to end US wars and support peace and human rights. According to their website, Gold describes herself on Twitter as a hip mama first and also a staff member of Code Pink, an anti-Zionist Jew, and a BDS supporter, among other titles. On stage at the time are both Kutcher and Airbnb founder Brian Chesky.
How's it going? How are you? How are you? How you doing? Great. Let me explain to you something. Let me explain to you something about what Airbnb means to me.
Let me first tell you what Airbnb is doing.
Well, you actually don't have the stage. So that's bullshit. Okay, so let me paraphrase what's being said.
Get a job!
So what the people here are doing is focusing on bringing people together. Discriminate against one another.
Yeah.
Thank you, ma'am.
We can get to know each other intimately and understand our collective narrative is a narrative for everyone, and that we all can belong in a world together without borders. And while I can appreciate that this doesn't happen seamlessly, I can appreciate that it does not happen easily. I can appreciate that where there is change, there will be a fringe case that feels objectified. But this company is about bringing people together and about loving one another. And I know this man, I know his heart, I know his initiative, and I know that when a problem gets brought to his desk that says that there is a discrimination or there is a displacement, that he cares.
Yeah.
And that the first thing he does is try to look at the system holistically and change it to make it better. So you're welcome to a world where we all belong. And if you want to sit down and have a conversation about it, I'm happy to have that conversation with you.
I mean, at least he addressed this, I guess, and I obviously appreciate what the protester did there, raising massive awareness of this. How many people would have become aware of this if they didn't take the stage where Ashton Kutcher was speaking. But Ashton Kutcher really, really loves Israel, And he's also become part of the celebrities who have bought into this offshoot of Judaism that is very popular with LA actors, despite himself being raised Roman Catholic. So that might explain some of his love for Israel. Of course, protester herself was Jewish, anti-Zionist BDS. That doesn't automatically make you like Israel. But with someone like Ashton Kutcher and Madonna, a Jewish person described to me on Twitter as white people who like take like Hare Krishna stuff or Taoist stuff or Hindu stuff and sort of like say they're like so mystical and everything like that. That's kind of like what Ashton Kutcher and other celebrities are doing here. But just to go into a bit further for the Israel stuff, this is probably the most disgusting thing. Friends of the Israel Defense Forces Gala raises a record $60 million for soldiers, and this was back in 2018. Raising an all-time high of $60 million, Friends of the Israeli Defense Force topped last year's record-breaking fundraiser by $6.2 million at the annual Western Region Gala, held at the Beverly Hilton on Thursday evening. In his speech, Gala Chair Hayam Saban saluted the Israeli soldiers who were honored for outstanding service. Tonight, you have seen up close the unbreakable spirit and the unimaginable bravery of our IDF soldiers and their families. Yes, the most brave soldiers on the entire planet, just as brave as the British who were in Northern Ireland in the 70s to 90s. Standing behind these heroes is one of my greatest honors of my life. The money raised goes to support IDF soldiers and the families of fallen soldiers and wounded veterans through social, cultural, recreational, and educational programs. Several donations from Thursday night will directly go to the Impact Scholarship Program, dedicated to helping veterans return to school. In addition to helping veterans, the organization seeks to maintain and nourish the strong bond between communities in the US and the State of Israel. The star-studded event included Gerald Butler, Ashton Kutcher, Catherine McPhee, David Foster, Andy Garcia. Providing entertainment was musical guest Pharrell Williams. So obviously that's like a really, really gross event, and anyone attending that just shows where their loyalties lie with colonialism. But here is Ashton Kutcher elaborating on it more. I might have a clip of this as well, but the audio quality is really bad on this one too. So this is back in 2013. Ashton Kutcher says, Israel is close to my heart. And this was at like an event where he was talking about like investing in stuff with business partner Guy Orsary, the Israeli-born manager of Madonna, who are partners in A-Grade, a venture capital firm that has made investments in over 60 companies, including Airbnb and Spotify.
A lot of the innovation that comes from here, a lot of the innovation being out of pure defense of self. But that innovation then can spawn commercial endeavors that can be much greater than that. And in addition to that, a lot of the base communication companies, and I sort of realized that there was such a wealth of knowledge and sort of technical immigration that was happening here, brains coming from Russia, and a lot of brains that were here, that were creating really gigantically valuable, innovative ideas. And Guy and I, probably 3 years ago, started pursuing technology investing, mostly because we wanted to change the world. We saw the world changing and we wanted to be a part of it, and we wanted to help people who had goals and aspirations to bring the world together in a different way. I see this place as an epicenter of that value, which is a place that's surrounded by, in some ways, hostility, but also a place that's managed to embrace its neighbors and create peace, create peace, create peace, create peace amongst an environment that can be very hostile. And I think a large part of that change and a large part of that global change has been happening over the internet. And I believe that the innovation that will come of that will be inspired from here. And we want to be a part of that. We want to be a part of that global change. I was actually saying earlier today, or somebody we were meeting with earlier today actually said, you know, Israel doesn't have a lot of natural resources, but its true natural resources, it's people, and the minds of the people, and the creativity of the people, and so people have to be creative about how they think. So my goal here this time is to embrace the people here that are the natural resource of Israel, and actually create businesses and build businesses with you.
God, this guy is so delusional, funding the IDF and saying Israel is a country that loves peace and creates peace. Coming to Israel is a sort of coming back to the source of creation, trying to get closer to that. And as a creative person, going to the source of creation is really inspiring. And this place has been really inspiring for me, not only on a spiritual level, but also on an artistic and creative level. I wonder if Ashton Kutcher believes the world's like 10,000 years old, if you're calling Israel the source of creation. I guess as a Roman Catholic and someone who like recognizes a lot of Jewish values as well, I'm guessing he's talking about Israel and like the religious significance of it. Now, more recently, he's invested in more Israeli stuff. So this was only last October. Ashton Kutcher led group invests in Israeli maker of lab-grown meat. A group led by actor Ashton Kutcher will invest in an Israeli maker of lab-grown 3D printed meat products, the company announced on Thursday. Me Tech 3D said that the investment team also included Israel-born talent manager Guy Orsery, who has been involved with Kutcher in numerous startups and investment funds. A press release announcing the deal did not disclose the details of the investment. So at this point, I think Ashton Kutcher is already cancelled because he is a venture capitalist and a massive simp for Israel, and also someone who's helped funding for the IDF. But now I want to get into the religious side a bit more, because this stuff is really bizarre and I had never heard of this before. So he used to be married to Demi Moore, and him and Demi Moore are both not Jewish, and now he is married to Mila Kunis, who is Jewish. He's been a member of this like offshoot of Judaism that has a base in LA for a while, so I'm going to read out what this is and why it's so influential with LA celebrities. So Ashton Kutcher, Mila Kunis attend Kabbalah guru's funeral in Safed. Rabbi Philip Berg, the founder of the LA-based Kabbalah Center, whose death was announced on Monday, was buried Wednesday at the cemetery in the northern Israeli city of Safed, a place where has been associated for centuries with Kabbalah, Jewish mysticism. Berg 86 attracted a large number of followers to Kabbalah, among them American celebrities including Madonna, Britney Spears, Ashton Kutcher. Kutcher and his girlfriend Mila Kunis were among those who attended the funeral. Berg was buried in a large mausoleum. So why are Hollywood stars infatuated with Judaism? This is in Israel Today. A long string of top American entertainers going back decades have sought spiritual refuge in Judaism. It was Madonna who popularized Judaism among modern Hollywood stars, or at least the mystical branch of Judaism called Kabbalah. Born to Catholic parents, Madonna took an interest in Kabbalah when she was pregnant with her eldest child. I realized I had spent my whole life worrying about myself and that I would soon be responsible for someone else's life. Something was missing in my life, wrote Madonna. Through Kabbalah, she claims she woke up. Madonna's studies in Kabbalah did lead her to take an interest in helping others. She later adopted 2 children from Malawi and became a major philanthropist for poor children in Africa. Still, it's not clear how she reconciles her provocative performances with any form of Judaism. Britney Spears was introduced to Kabbalah by her longtime friend Madonna. She told Christianity Today, "I read the Kabbalah books and I meditate on them. For some reason, I am thirsting for it." Other well-known stars who have gotten involved in Jewish mysticism include Lindsay Lohan, Roseanne Barr, Ashton Kutcher, Leonardo DiCaprio, Demi Moore, Mick Jagger, Alex Rodriguez, Rosie O'Donnell, to name but a few. Paris Hilton told the UK Moores magazine, "When I split with Nick Carter, I coped by going straight to the Kabbalah Center in LA, told everyone about the breakout and got a new red string Kabbalah bracelet. I go there regularly, it helps me deal with my life." When a Kabbalah Center opened its doors in LA in 1984, they sought to make the wisdom of Kabbalah accessible and understandable to everyone. According to their website, the center continues to attract many Hollywood stars after Madonna becoming a major donator to their efforts. So just for a little history of this mysticism, Kabbalah is the most famous form of Jewish mysticism. It flowered in 13th century Spain with the writing of the Zohar, which was originally attributed to the 2nd century sage Shimon Bar Yochai. The Zohar is a commentary on the Torah, because he started going off on one about how China are using TikTok to manipulate people. God as God, also known as the infinite, cannot be comprehended by humans. However, God can be understood and described as revealed in 10 mystical attributes. And then you see the bracelets that are probably the most famous thing from this movement. So just reading a lot about this like religious sect of Judaism, a lot of Jews don't really consider it like a legitimate form of Judaism, but it is like really interesting that people like Ashton Kutcher, Madonna have really bought into it, and it often just translates into being extremely pro-Israel. Although I could not find too much information about this movement's views on Israel, so I'm not sure if it's like Orthodox Judaism, which doesn't like it, and these guys just might be like cosplaying and become very obsessed, so they see like Israel as maybe an extension of their views on this stuff. I don't know. So now let's move over to Ashton Kutcher and the CIA. As though this guy isn't bad enough, he also loves the CIA. So in 2018 he posted this tweet: "Just sending out a morning shout out to the men and women of the intelligence community that keeps us safe and protects our country," with a CIA mug. So thankfully got like heavily dunked on, but if anyone has like a very like rough knowledge of the CIA, you will know they are an absolutely monstrous organization, probably one of the most evil in, I guess, the post-war period, destabilizing so many democracies, of course, mainly targeting socialist countries and overthrowing socialist leaders so America and its buddies can privatize economies around the world. This happened in Africa, Iran, it happened in Vietnam, the Philippines, it literally just happened everywhere. This came up again recently because he started going off on one about how China are using TikTok to manipulate people and like brainwash people.
Well, I look at TikTok right now, which is probably the fastest growing social media platform. And I see a massive regulatory battle on the horizon for a company like TikTok that is powered by ByteDance, which is one of the most powerful AI engines in the world in China.
Yeah.
And I think about if I'm China and I want to create a problem in that area of the world, specifically a naval problem in that area of the world, in the South China Sea, I would probably want to utilize TikTok in order to influence the minds of Americans in a anti-US propaganda, anti-Taiwanese propaganda effort in order to make any kind of war from the United States extraordinarily unpopular in order to defend the South China Sea.
Yeah, there's all sorts of ways they can manipulate our media and what our people think. That's right.
And I think that most people believe that there is media manipulation happening and misinformation campaigns happening, just not through their sources. And I think that that's wrong. And I think we're about to face a reckoning in that particular domain.
So of course, like nation states using social media to manipulate people is something that is fairly common. I don't know why he's specifically focusing on China. And also I find it weird, like obviously China has a very tight control on its own internet. I don't know why you're particularly worried with that influence being on young, impressionable Americans. I would say that Gen Z hate America anyway, just from living in it. They don't need the Chinese government to tell them it's bad. I don't know why Ashton Kutcher specifically cares so much about the South China Sea and Taiwan. I'm guessing he might have like investments in Taiwan. It is like a big hub for tech and Western investments. It just seems like a very, very weird thing to focus on. Like TikTok might brainwash my kids into being anti-Taiwan. And also just anyone who fearmongers about this automatically gets red flags in my books. It reminds me of everyone who goes absolutely crazy whenever the Chinese company Tencent like invest in Western companies, while at the same time not caring when Microsoft is literally like buying up the entire games industry. And American companies who often are totally in bed with the US government, they don't care when this happens, but when it's the Chinese government, it's the scariest thing ever. So another really awful thing he's done is he's helped the police with surveillance technology. So Ashton Kutcher's NGO supplies police with free CIA-linked surveillance tools. The NGO called Fawn continues to supply controversial software to law enforcement agencies around the country under the guise of helping police. Fawn's role in supplying such software to law enforcement despite moratoriums is also notable because its founder, Ashton Kutcher, has publicly supported BLM and the recent protests. In addition, Kutcher is also a major investor alongside Amazon's Jeff Bezos in a company that supplies AI-powered software to law enforcement agencies, yet further investigation to Fawn casts even greater doubt on its professed altruistic objectives, given the organization's ties to CIA cutouts. Fawn was founded in 2012 by Ashton Kutcher and Demi Moore. Fawn's partners per its website include many of the largest Silicon Valley tech companies like Amazon, Google, Twitter, Facebook, Microsoft, Adobe. They also partnered with the NGO Polaris, and Polaris is also a member organization of the Clinton Global Initiative. The majority of Fawn's work involves providing local and federal law enforcement agencies with a software suite called Spotlight. It's an AI-powered surveillance tool that, per the tech companies that helped create it, is currently used by more than 2,187 law enforcement and intelligence agencies in North America. It is provided to the US law enforcement free of charge by the foreign organization, allowing law enforcement easy access to controversial surveillance systems. So let's tally it up right now. So Ashton Kutcher spends a lot of money funding Israeli companies. Ashton Kutcher helps raise money for the Israeli Defense Force. Ashton Kutcher promotes the CIA as a good thing. Ashton Kutcher's companies give surveillance tech to American police forces. So this has led some to beg the question, is Ashton Kutcher actually in the CIA or in some sort of Western intelligence service? Because his simping for this stuff, his actions through venture capital, and his comments make him seem really suspect. So there's a funny article on Mother Jones by Ali Breland. I am simply asking if Ashton Kutcher is a CIA asset. The thought never crossed my mind about Kutcher's relation to the security state until today, when I stumbled onto an Instagram post of 2 screenshots from his Twitter from 2009. Spent the afternoon picking the brain of a former CIA guy. It really makes you wonder if anything you come in contact with is not manipulated from 2018. Just sending out a morning shout out to the men and women of the intelligence community that keep us safe and protect our community, with a photo of a haggard pic of Kutcher drinking his morning Joe out of a CIA mug. What's going on here? I went on Twitter and saw a separate Kutcher video that had gone viral. In it, Kutcher explains how TikTok might actually be a Chinese psyop to influence the mind of Americans. There is tremendous meta-irony in Kutcher, a famous and well-liked celebrity, talking about the Chinese government using entertainment to influence American sentiment about geopolitics. As he talks about geopolitics, maybe he just reads The Economist a lot and has become a hawkish foreign policy guy as a hobby. I don't know, but it's weird. So as a professional journalist, I tried to ask him about it. Ashton, do any work with the CIA or other national security agencies? Does he want to? I wrote one of the most stupid but justified emails I've ever sent in my life to the PR company that represents him. I haven't heard anything back yet, and I don't think I will. Maybe you're wondering, if Kutcher was a CIA asset, wouldn't he be wanting to be more secretive? You've clearly never lived in DC if you think that. People who probably work in the intelligence community in DC desperately want you to know that they do, while being cagey about it. But tell me your ex without telling me your ex meme format was potentially accidentally created by some 26-year-old intelligence analyst in Arlington who was workshopping ways to get Tinder dates without getting in trouble at work. So yes, Kutcher would act like this if he was a CIA asset. If you think the CIA is cool enough to shill for, you're going to think it's cool enough to be associated with, even if you can't officially be. You're going to desperately want to be associated. The other explanation is that he just wants people to think this, which is just as maybe more likely. So Ashton Kutcher does usually play comedic characters, but it does seem that his venture capital work and his views on foreign policy, including the IDF, are very, very problematic, and he actually is a lot more worthy of being cancelled than a lot of other people I've cancelled. Like, sure, I don't like Chris Pratt's politics. Obviously, Salt Bae is an awful boss. Mr. Beast, I just think, has really gross content, but Ashton Kutcher literally raises money for an awful military force, helps the police with surveillance technology, and thinks the CIA is good. So Ashton Kutcher, you're cancelled after this video. All your businesses are going to drop you as an investor. You'll never work in Hollywood again. You're done. Anyway, let me know what you guys think of the return of the Cancel-nacle. If you want to follow me on social media, at the Kavernacle on Twitter and Instagram. Support me on Patreon, that is in the description. Come join our community on my subreddit. Again, link in the description. And if you made it this far, thank you for watching.